On June 30th, 2026, a letter was written by two sets of citizens in the Indian subcontinent. 117 signatures by a group calling themselves Center for Peace and Progress. 61 from India and 56 from Pakistan. Prominent citizens, we are told. Concerned citizens, the letter tells us with a self-approving air about it. And what does this concern really produce? A demand that India restore full diplomatic relations with Pakistan, reinstate high commissioners, resume visas, and here is a crown jewel: revive the Musharraf-Manmohan framework on Jammu and Kashmir. The 4-point formula from 2004 to 2007. They want to dig it out of the grave, dust it off, and put Kashmir back on the negotiating table. 14 months after Operation Sindoor, while the families of Pahalgam still grieve, while the Indus Waters Treaty sits in abeyance and Pakistan's establishment cycles between pleading and threatening. Now the candles are coming out, the mango trees are being grafted at the border, and the concerts are being scheduled. Aman ki Asha is back. Namaskar, this is Desh and welcome to Drishtikone. On June 30th, 2026, a letter was written by two sets of citizens in the Indian subcontinent. 117 signatures by a group calling themselves Center for Peace and Progress. 61 from India and 56 from Pakistan. Prominent citizens, we are told. Concerned citizens, the letter tells us with a self-approving air about it. And what does this concern really produce? A demand that India restore full diplomatic relations with Pakistan, reinstate high commissioners, resume visas, and here is a crown jewel: revive the Musharraf-Manmohan framework on Jammu and Kashmir. The 4-point formula from 2004 to 2007. They want to dig it out of the grave, dust it off, and put Kashmir back on the negotiating table. 14 months after Operation Sindoor, while the families of Pahalgam still grieve, while the Indus Waters Treaty sits in abeyance and Pakistan's establishment cycles between pleading and threatening. Now the candles are coming out, the mango trees are being grafted at the border, and the concerts are being scheduled. Aman ki Asha is back. Today let us do something really specific. Let us walk through the actual historical record of talking to Pakistan, because this record actually exists. Everything is documented, dated, and unambiguous. And once you see it laid out end to end, you will understand why this letter from the so-called concerned citizens is a weapon aimed at only India-Pakistan policy that has ever worked. So stay with me. Let us start with a question the peace lobby never answers. What the heck would talks produce that has never been promised before? Think about this. Every agreement they want already exists. Shimla 1972, Pakistan signed it. The Lahore Declaration 1999, Pakistan signed it. January 2004, General Musharraf gave India a written commitment that territory under Pakistan's control would never be used for terrorism against India. The ceasefire understandings of 2003 and 2021 are already there. They were all signed, all properly filed and documented, and all solemnly witnessed and signed. So the shelf is actually full of these agreements. Actually, it is overflowing. The problem was never an empty shelf of agreements, that such agreements didn't exist. The problem is that every document on it was violated, and violated even before the ink had dried. Vajpayee rode the bus to Lahore in February 1999. Within 3 months, Pakistani soldiers were sitting on the heights of Kargil. The infiltration was being planned while the Lahore Declaration was drafted. Musharraf's 2004 commitment, 4 years later, After years of planning and training, one might add, 10 men from Karachi sailed into Mumbai and murdered 166 people in cold blood over 3 days on live television. After his election, Prime Minister Modi landed in Lahore in December 2015, unannounced. A birthday visit to Nawaz Sharif, the single warmest gesture any Indian Prime Minister has ever made. 8 days later, terrorists attacked the Pathankot airbase. Look at the sequence carefully. This is a pattern which has a clear cause and effect structure. Indian peace overtures do more than fail. They trigger attacks. And once you understand who runs Pakistan, you will understand why. Genuine peace is an existential threat to the Pakistani army. Its budget, its business empire, its constitutional impunity, its entire institutional identity depends on the permanent Indian enemy. Every time an Indian Prime Minister extends a hand, Rawalpindi must burn it. Because a Pakistan at peace with India is a Pakistan that no longer needs its army to own the state. So when the letter writers ask India to talk, we need to ask them, talk to whom? The civilian government that signs the agreements or the military establishment that shreds them and attacks India? Now let's talk about the dossiers, because this is a part of the story that the peace lobby wants us all to forget. After 26/11, the Indian administration of Sonia Gandhi and Manmohan Singh made a choice. India chose paper or dossiers over war. India compiled dossiers, voice intercepts of handlers in Karachi, directing the killers in real time. Ajmal Kassab was captured alive, confessing on record. DNA evidence was there, boat purchase records were there, the testimony of David Headley, who scouted every target, was present. India handed this over, dossier after dossier after dossier, through years of diplomatic process. And what did Pakistan do with them? Hafiz Saeed was addressing public rallies under police protection. Zakir-ur-Rahman Lakhvi got bail and reportedly fathered a child while in his so-called prison. The Mumbai trial in Rawalpindi became a permanent theatre production, adjourned into eternity. Masood Azhar, the man behind the Parliament 2001 attack and later Pulwama attack, was shielded at the UN Security Council by China, veto after veto after veto, for a decade. And then came the Pathankot 2016 January attack. And here India did something that no victim of terrorism has ever done in recorded diplomatic history. India invited a Pakistani joint investigation team into an active frontline airbase, including an ISI officer. Think about the magnitude of that concession. We opened a military installation to the intelligence agency that sponsored the attack on it in the hope that evidence seen firsthand would finally produce cooperation. The Pakistani JIT, or the Joint Investigation Team, flew back home, and Pakistan's response was to declare that Pathankot was a false flag operation staged by India itself. That was the verdict. 8 years from Mumbai to Pathankot, India almost ran a controlled experiment in evidence diplomacy. And what was the result? The hypothesis India went in was, if we prove it, they'll act. But the result was, the proof produces bail hearings, the rallies, the accusations that we attacked ourselves. Fantastic. Uri happened in September of that same year. And India's answer was different that time. Surgical strikes across the line of control. Then Pulwama in 2019 was done, and that was answered at Balakot, deep inside Pakistan proper, beyond Pakistan-occupied territory for the first time since 1971. And then Pahalgam in 2025 was answered by Operation Sindoor, which struck the terror infrastructure at Muridke and Bahawalpur, the headquarters themselves of these terror organizations, and established a new doctrine. An act of terror will be treated as an act of war. Surgical strikes, Balakot and Sindoor were conclusions. They were the policy output of a failed dossier experiment. India stopped sending paper because paper had been tested to complete destruction itself. And now in 2026, 117 so-called concerned citizens want India to walk back into that same failed laboratory and rerun the falsified experiment. Same hypothesis, same enemy, which will yield the same inevitable result. And here is where it gets really interesting. Ask yourself, why now? Why this letter at this moment? The answer is sitting sitting in plain sight. After Operation Sindoor, India put Indus Waters Treaty into abeyance. Blood and water cannot flow. And for the first time in the history of this relationship, India is holding leverage that actually bites. Water. Trade is zero. Diplomatic downgrade has already happened. A standing military doctrine that promises escalation. And Pakistan's response have moved through phases. First, they came with threats, nuclear rhetoric, the jugular vein speeches, and when that produced nothing, pleading happened. Appeals to international forums about the treaty, the seminars in Islamabad about water rights, and when the pleading produced nothing, the establishment moved to the third phase, the narrative warfare. Get the argument made inside India by Indian voices on Indian letterheads, and that is what this letter is. It is Rawalpindi's case translated into Lutyens' vocabulary by immoral busybodies in India. And notice the asymmetry in what it demands. India must restore diplomats. India must resume visas. India must revisit Kashmir framework and take steps towards demilitarization. And what exactly must Pakistan do? What exactly should Pakistan do? Where is the demand that Muridke and Bahawalpur should be dismantled? Where is the demand for the extradition of Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar? Where is the demand that Pakistan should vacate the occupied Jammu and Kashmir, which is the only territorial dispute that actually exists, created by Pakistan's invasion in October 1947 after Maharaja Hari Singh had signed the Instrument of Accession? You see, there is a complete silence on that. By some convoluted narrative, these immoral busybodies have every goddamn deliverable in the letter for India, each one of them. In every benefit, well, that is Pakistan's. And the peace lobby calls this whole letter a balance. And Musharraf-Manmohan framework itself deserves a closer look. The 4-point formula would reopen Jammu and Kashmir as a disputed question after the abrogation of Article 370 settled it constitutionally in India. Its demilitarization plank in operational terms means Indian forces thinning out of territory that Pakistani proxies will then infiltrate. India would trade the tangible and the irreversible, sovereignty and military posture for the intangible and the revocable, a promise of restraint from an establishment whose promises died at Kargil and Mumbai. Even in its own time, the framework had collapsed. Musharraf fell, and the 2611 buried whatever remained of that Manmohan-Musharraf agreement. The peace lobby wants to exhume a corpse and call it a roadmap. Now let us address the softer version of this argument, because that is an even more seductive one. People-to-people contact, cultural exchange, cricket, concerts. Ordinary Pakistanis are wonderful people, and surely talking at human level can do no harm. Here is a problem, and it is a problem of framing. The entire Aman Ki Asha genre treats terrorism as if it was weather, a sad, ambient condition, a tragedy that afflicts both people equally, like the monsoon has failed. Both countries have suffered, we are told, so both sides must move forward. This is the lie of the entire structure itself. Terrorism against India is a deliberate, budgeted, doctrinal instrument of Pakistani state. It has a sponsor, it has an address in Rawalpindi, a training infrastructure across Pakistan, and a general staff which actually helps it. One side, Pakistan, builds the apparatus, while the other side, India, buries its dead. There are no two sides to Mumbai. There are no two sides to Pahalgam, where terrorists were sorted by religion before being shot in front of their families. The function of candlelight vigil, the border hug, the grafted mango tree, is to remove the sponsor from the frame itself. Every one of these images perform a moral equivalence between the targeted and the targeter. And through that equivalence, the Pakistani army walks back into polite society without paying for a single body that they have actually created. People-to-people romance is a civilian camouflage under which the military establishment escapes the complete accountability. Let us say this as plainly as we can. Any Indian signature on a document that demands a revival of the Kashmir formula while demanding nothing of the state that carried out Pahalgam is participating in normalization of that state's terrorism strategy. They may believe they are serving peace. What they are actually serving is Rawalpindi's exit ramp. So what is it that works between India and Pakistan? Let us close this empirical question because Drishtikone deals in evidence. Across 7 decades, what has ever modified Pakistani behavior? Dossiers? Well, 15 years of them changed nothing. Summits? Agra, Lahore, Islamabad? Absolutely nothing. Back channels? The Lamba channel by S.K. Lamba, who's nostalgic about it now, ran for better part of a decade through multiple Pakistani interlocutors, and terror continued throughout that time. Tracked 2 conferences, media exchanges, and the entire Aman ki Asha machinery from 2010 onwards. The attacks continued through all of that. Now look at the other column. FATF grey listing, external financial cost, forced at least cosmetic arrests and account freezes. Balakot forced a pause and a recalibration. Operation Sindoor plus the Indus Valley Treaty abeyance has done something unprecedented. It has Pakistan pleading, holding seminars about water and outsourcing its diplomacy to letter writers in Delhi. The record is unambiguous. Engagement subsidizes the behavior. Costs constrains it. So the rational Indian policy actually writes itself. Hold the posture, keep the water leverage, keep the doctrine that terror invites war, keep the trade at zero, and let Pakistan's own contradictions do the negotiating. An economy on permanent IMF life support, the Baloch insurgency, the TTP fire on the western border, and a begging bowl circulating between Beijing, Riyadh, and Washington. India's strongest position in any future conversation is to have no need for one. The moment India asks for talks, India starts paying. The moment Pakistan asks, and Pakistan is asking right now through this very letter, India is being paid. Deterrence, friends, is a reputation asset. It was purchased at Uri, at Balakot, and in the skies during Operation Sindoor. It was purchased in blood. You cannot spend it on photo opportunity at the Wagah border and expect the account to stay full. If India reverses terror and talks cannot go together, 14 months after Sindoor, the lesson Rawalpindi learns is very, very precise and clear. Indian red lines have a half-life of about 1 year, and the peace lobby will always be available to erase them. So here is where we land actually. The question is never why India refuses to talk. The question is what talks would produce that the Shimla, Lahore, and 2004 pledge and 2 ceasefires did not already promise. The peace lobby has had 5 decades to answer that question. They have no answer because none exists. India tried paper. Paper got Mumbai. India tried hospitality. Hospitality got Pathankot. India tried evidence. Evidence got the false flag acquisition. What finally changed Pakistani behavior was Uri, Balakot, Sindoor, and water. Nations do not abandon the only policy that has ever worked at the request of the people whose policy never did. 117 signatures cannot outweigh the 166 dead in Mumbai, 40 dead in Pulwama, and 26 dead in Pahalgam. The dead have a standing. The letter writers only have their letterheads. If you found this analysis valuable, share it with someone who is about to be moved by a candlelight vigil. Subscribe to Drishtikone newsletter for full essay version of this argument with sources and complete diplomatic timeline. This is Desh. Jai Hind.